Welcome to Future Talk. Modern technology has created a lot of benefits, but it's also caused a lot of disruption, including in labor markets, where more and more jobs are being taken over by machines. So what happens to people whose skills are no longer needed in the new economy? On today's program, we're going to discuss an idea called the people-centered economy. I have two guests. Kurt Carlson served for 16 years as president and CEO of SRI International, a leading center of innovative research. He's also founder and CEO of Practice of Innovation, a consulting company that advises governments and corporations around the world how to get the most value from their workers. David Nordfors is the co-founder of Innovation for Jobs, a think tank that looks for ways to create new types of jobs and prepare people to fill them. He's the co-author, along with internet pioneer Vint Cerf, of a book called The People-Centered Economy, and he's currently a distinguished visiting scholar at IBM Research. And I'd like to welcome both of you to the program. Great to see you once again. So Kurt, let me ask you, how do you define the problem that you and David are trying to solve?
Well, it's certainly a very serious problem. It's kind of a paradox in one way, because this is the best time for innovation in the history of the world. I've never seen more opportunities for people to create new innovations that the world needs. On the other hand, we have other issues, like the worry of automation. You mentioned that. And do people have the right skills to thrive in today's world? It's sobering. For example, Gallup showed that about a third of the people working today are engaged in their jobs. About a third of them are employed, and a third of them are actively disengaged. So the challenge that I see, and I think David shares, is how do we match people up with jobs that give them meaning, where they will be engaged? Because if people are engaged, then they tend to be productive, and they keep on learning, and they do all the right things.
Now, sometimes people just have to be matched with a job at all, engaged or not. Sometimes they just have trouble finding any kind of job. So is there a way to deal with that? Is there some kind of dislocation or mismatch that can be fixed?
Well, David's working more on that. The part that I'm working on is more, how do you give people the skills they need to thrive in today's world? It's a double problem. How do we match people up, and then how do we give them the skills they need so they can do meaningful work and be engaged and create value for society?
Now, David, you're involved in something called the people-centered economy. In fact, you have a book with that title. Sounds like a nice phrase. What does it mean in real life?
Well, so it means, it's actually very simple. It's that the economy gets better when you put people at the center. And it's more than just a phrase. It is something real. And that's that it's a new perspective. If we think about the economy, the value that exists in the economy equals the value that people find in each other, nothing more. And that's how we calculate GDP and so on today. It's the business that people do for each other, how they find need in each other. So it's actually good for the economy when people need each other.
Well, if a corporation said, I like this idea of a people-centered economy, what can I do in my corporation? What would I do differently if I wanted to be part of this people-centered economy? What would they do?
Absolutely. Well, what they would do would be to earn money by making people more valuable. So there are a lot of people out there who could create value for others and who aren't doing it because they aren't given the opportunity. And there are lots of things that we can invent to do for each other, especially with all the technology we have today, that people would value, things we don't know what they are today. We have to invent them.
Get people to be more productive, train them to be more productive?
Well, train them to create, shall we say, offer them opportunity to be more valuable for each other. And then you have creative people who figure out what these things could be. I mean, you know, once upon a time somebody invented something called football, which didn't seem to actually add a lot of value to people, but as things turned out, it's sort of like a billions and billions of dollars economy where people have created a lot of value and value each other through it. It's an economy. So, you know, maybe if we can make each other valuable with an inflatable leather ball, maybe we can make each other valuable with computers as well.
Is it a question of attitude where you assume that people have value and you just want to draw it out, as opposed to saying, well, this person is only capable of turning this crank and that's all I'm going to ever ask them to do.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a range of capabilities, but I think David's exactly right. I was the CEO of SRI International for many years, and when I went, I'd been failing for 20 years, and we took an attitude very much like what David described. We took the attitude that everybody there could create value for society. And what we tried to do is match them up with jobs that had meaning for them. So they did a lot of self-selection in terms of what they did. But the other part of it is we also gave them the skills. Almost no one came to SRI knowing how to create value. And actually, that's a hard thing to know how to do. So we were, I think, the only company in the world that took that responsibility seriously. Everybody who came in, we gave workshops and we had forums and we did everything we could to augment the skills that people had. And I made people a promise. If they came to SRI and they worked on a big important problem and they took advantage of all the things we did for them, they would make an impact. They would create value for themselves and for others and for society.
Well, let's say a person is a computer programmer, so they do their job, they write the software they're assigned to do. What additional value can they create beyond writing the software that they're told to write?
So if I may correct you, I don't think a person is a computer programmer. I think a person can program computers, among other things. And that somehow, you know, there are organizations in society that offer this person something to do, right? And then they give this person money for what they do because it creates value for others. And then there are other organizations that offer this person ways to spend that money, right? So in a way, we get offers to earn money and we get offers to spend money. And the offers we get for spending our money are extremely good today, but the offers that we get for earning money are not at all in par. So we can innovate new ways of being valuable for each other and earning good livelihoods by doing meaningful things that fit our skills, talents, passions, that matches us in good teams. None of this is done today. And this you can see as a service. An entrepreneur could come to you and say, I offer you a one-stop shop for earning a livelihood. I'm going to tailor it to fit your unique profile of skills, talents, passions. I'll match you in good teams. You'll choose good things to do, meaningful for you. I don't care what you do. As long as you are happy and you earn money, and that is what I offer you, and I take 10% of what you earn, do you want my service? 19 out of 20 people today who don't have anything close to that would be very happy to be offered that service. Another thing is we can offer people that now with the computer power we have.
Well, there are websites like LinkedIn that matches jobs with people. So using computers, that's not too difficult.
Yes.
But how do you create more jobs? Like, I understand that we're going to have to create new jobs to replace the jobs that are being taken over by machines.
So actually, that's the part I've been emphasizing, is that, as I mentioned, we hired straight A PhDs from Harvard and MIT at SRI, and none of them came to us knowing how to create value for themselves or for others. And so we actually created a curriculum where we trained everybody. And now I work at two universities, Northeastern and Worcester Polytech, where we're engaging students with these attitudes and these values, and professors and professionals, and giving them these skills so that, in fact, they can think very creatively about what can they do, what's meaningful to them, how do they add value not only to themselves but also to society. And if you give people an opportunity to do meaningful work, it's transformative. It's a gift. Anybody who's doing meaningful work that they love has really found something really special.
Well, what do people mean by meaningful work? Is meaningful work something that you just like doing? What makes it meaningful?
You know, it's just about reframing the mind, right? Because meaningful is what you decide is meaningful. Mm-hmm. And what I'm saying, in a people-centered economy, today we have a task-centered economy. We earn our money on the labor market. We spend our money on the consumer market. In both markets, there's a person in one end, that's us, and then there's an organization in the other end. and then we trade something in the middle. It's either the work we do or it's the things we buy. And then we have an economy that optimizes the cost of that thing, right? Now, in a people-centered economy, imagine people embedded in an ecosystem of organization and technology that competes to make these people as valuable for each other as possible. And we offered basically two types of services. The first is a service for spending the money. We have that today. But then we also have a service for earning the money. And these are in balance. So you should be able to earn and spend with equal ease. Now, until today, that has been very difficult to kind of reinvent the way you earn money, because it's a more complex thing than to, here's a book, here's a product, buy it. But to invent and personally shape a livelihood for every person on planet Earth, we haven't been able to do before, but now we can do it with the technology that we have. So this is the next big thing, is to innovate as many good ways to earn that make you, the customer, happy with the way you earn your money, as happy as you, the customer, are with the ways you're offered to being spent.
Now, how is this different from an employment service? Because there are already many companies that have a list of jobs and they have a list of candidates and they try to match them.
Right.
What is this adding to that?
Well,
Let me try again.
Yeah.
A more concrete example. SRI is a concrete example of this. We weren't looking for everybody on the planet. We were looking for people who wanted to be in an ecosystem that pretty much satisfies David's requirements. They self-select. We gave them the opportunity to work on their programs and their kind of projects. And by the way, we did things like Siri, high definition television. We were creating really big things with people who came to us, and because they were empowered and engaged and they were satisfying these criteria, and we gave them the right skills. I want to emphasize, adding these skills to me is the critical thing. Once people have these skills, then they actually take control of their lives.
Talking about technical skills?
These are more habits of mind. These are thought processes. This is how you view the world. This is how you view other people. Creating value is a discipline to be learned.
Is it like being useful, looking for opportunities to be useful, even if it's not within your written job description?
So part of the thing we share is that people want to be meaningful. They want to make a contribution. And if you give them the skills and give them the opportunity to do that, that provides a lot of meaning for people, a lot of meaning.
So I think that we need, Kurt is the guru on innovation here, right? And he's taught many people, inspired many people to do innovations like Siri and other stuff. Right? So the thing is that you have trained people how to develop products and how to develop things that other people can spend their money on and be happy with what they get. And what I'm suggesting is that we take Kurt and his method, and now he trains people to innovate jobs for working people. And the working people don't need to be creative entrepreneurial at all, but they're getting so many offers how to spend their money. They're not getting any offers how to earn their money. And we're innovating more and more ways for spending. But actually, what people really want is to earn a good livelihood. My vision for the economy is that we need a sustainable economy where people do meaningful work with people they like, are valued by people they don't know out in society, and provide for people they love. And if innovation does that for us, we'll be okay. Now, innovation is not doing that for us today. Why not? And that's because innovation is not focusing on making people more valuable, which it could do, but it's focusing more on the things we do, so that we put something in the middle, and then when you can do this thing without needing to pay people for doing it, then you kind of throw away the people and you wonder what should you do with the people.
So the only thing I get the general thrust that David's talking about, and it's mostly true, but I would say there are some of us who are innovating how we train people and give them the skills to be successful. Since I retired from SRI, that's been my entire life. How do you give people these skills to do exactly what David's, and we've got cohorts of people at the National Academies, the National Science Foundation, different foundations around the world, the 2 universities I mentioned, we've engaged with lots of other, and people are working to do this. But as David's pointing out, we're still pretty primitive on this scale of giving people all of these skills that I think they need so that they're not made obsolete by robots, so they can take advantage of the abundance in the world, so they can find those little pieces where you can take 10 or 20 or 50 people and all of a sudden give them a meaningful job in an effective way.
So we're talking about changing our ideas about the importance of people, because in many companies, people are disposable.
No.
You want to pay them the least amount of money possible and get rid of them the minute you don't need them.
Can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
So I once went into, when I was SRI, I was always walking around looking for people and seeing what they're doing. I walk in and there's this young researcher, a woman, Indira, from Pakistan. And she's giving a presentation to a Japanese client. And it's incomprehensible. The language barrier, and she's basically talking about her technology and the language that she uses. So I said, Indira, I think you have a big idea. Why don't you go to one of our workshops and learn the stuff that we teach everybody? Right. She said, okay. 9 months later, she called me up. Oh, by the way, I didn't know this at the time. She thought she was going to be fired because she was having no success. She was not going to be fired. She was tremendous. Anyway, 9 months later, she shows up and she says, Kurt, would you come to a party tonight for my group? I said, yes. Show up. She said, in the last 9 months, I won a $5 million program, and I just signed a Japanese transaction. And Kurt, you said to me when you saw me the last time that you thought I had a big idea, but you hadn't given me a gift to take to your wife. She now wants to give you this gift. She held up a bag. Her technology, you should realize, removes CO2 from a chemical process. She holds up a bag, and she said, there was CO2 in this bag, and now it's gone. I used the competing technology. And what you see is a brown layer and a bright yellow layer on top of it. And she holds up her bag. She says, there was CO2 in this. We used our technology, and now it's gone. And what you see is water. And she said, Kurt, our technology is biodegradable, and because it can be sold as a fertilizer, it's actually half the price of the competing technology. She said, Kurt, I want to give you these bags as a gift for your wife. But then she said the most important thing. She said, what I learned from the things that we teach at SRI is that by thinking about my work this way, when I brought it to my Japanese client, they immediately took it to the senior vice president, who immediately took it to the other executives, and that's why our program got approved so quickly. She has gone on from there to be one of the most successful researchers at SRI. Same person, same technology, but she learned these skills where now she can work as long as she wants to work on things that she wants to work on. And I think, to me, that's the ultimate gift. The ultimate gift is the ability to give workers these skills.
Is it hard to teach these skills? Can anyone learn these skills as soon as they hear what they are?
No, you have to work at them. It's like you play the violin, you play a musical instrument?
No.
Well, imagine you did. Can you learn to play a violin from reading a book? No. How do you get the Carnegie Hall? Practice, right? So yes, there are things to learn, but also you have to create an ecosystem, an experiential learning environment where people get to practice these skills over and over and over again.
So I suggest that the most valuable skill, and that Kurt practiced a lot, is the skill to value other people's skills. That's the most valuable skill.
So it's like how you look at people and the potential of people, because you assume there's something good in there if you're only willing to take the time and have the patience to bring it out.
You could think of two business models, right? One business model is I help people spend their money. They get more for less, right? So I earn when you spend. Another business model is I earn when you earn. So I'll help, Marty, I think you got some talents here that you don't realize that you have. And I have this app I made that's connected everywhere, where if you want, you're free to kind of develop that, and then I think I can find you, you know, better things to do. So, do you want to do it? And it's just like I'm offering you a service. And I am actually offering you a service. And the thing is then that my job, I earn money by helping you earn money. And this is the new thing, because it sounds so simple, it sounds trivial, but if you think about it, almost all business today focuses on helping the people to spend their money. And when you have an idea for a product or a service or something, you go to a venture capitalist, whatever, they will always see the spender as the customer that should be in the center of your business plan. And what I'm suggesting is that there's much more potential in an economy where you go to these 19 out of 20 people who don't have a job that fits them and engages them, and then you say, I have a better way for you to earn a livelihood, and you know what, you're going to earn more than today, and join my platform, and you can choose among a number of things to do that nobody else is going to offer you, and when you earn money, I earn money. Mm-hmm. Why has not anybody built that service today? Because what you have today is so-called gig work. Yeah, you have TaskRabbit or Uber, or you have.
Well, that's unreliable, especially if you're supporting a family.
Yeah, because
you want a steady income.
Because they don't have the worker as the primary customer. If they have to choose between getting rid of a guy who pays for the service or getting rid of one of the workers, they get rid of one of the workers. So Uber, you know, they now and then they get competition from Lyft, and they tell their drivers, or they don't tell them, but in effect they tell them, dear drivers, we can't pay you as much as before because we have competition on the market, but it's still a good gig, take it or leave it. Now, if they were people-centered, they would tell their drivers, dear drivers, we now have competition from Lyft, and it doesn't earn so much money to drive cars anymore, so we're going to find other things for you to do that earns better.
So is this an entrepreneurial opportunity?
Yes.
Where someone...
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
so maybe you guys
Sure,
could
The
do
world's
it.
biggest industry waiting
So
to
again,
happen.
So I believe that's how SRI ran and why we were successful. So it's at a very high level. David's talking about, you know, in a very broad way.
Is it just a matter of somebody picking up the ball and running with it and doing it?
Well,
Yes.
yeah, and that's all right. We created innovations like this. We're innovating in education to do exactly this sort of thing. So
Is there any resistance to it? Are there any obstacles to
Always.
implementing it?
Oh, there is.
anything that's new, there's all kinds of resistance. So
Or if you could promise a practical benefit right off the bat.
Yeah, could I make the case here? Right. So we say today on planet Earth, 19 out of 20 people don't have a job that both engages and fits them, right? And actually there are only 20%. Let's say that there were 5 billion workers, people of working age, 3 billion worked. All of them wanted to have a full-time job. Only 1.3 billion had it. 200 million were happy with their job, 400 million were unhappy with the job, and the rest didn't care. This is the workforce that creates a value of $100 trillion per year in GDP. What if we had 3 billion people that all of them had the service that we now offer them, all of them have a job that fits them and that engages them and that matches them with people they like and let them do meaningful things? How much more value would people create for each other than today? Let's be extremely conservative, double the value in today's dollar. So $200 trillion. So that means that if we take 10% commission, our revenues will be $20 trillion. That's a big industry waiting to happen.
So actually, since I've done this experiment, I can actually verify that when we've given people these skills, they generally tend to become 2 to 10 times more productive.
Right.
Now you travel around the world, you consult with governments and corporations all over the place. So presumably they bring you in to teach them these skills.
Yes.
And do they generally apply them and then they go on to be more successful?
Some do. So here's the challenge with what's required. To develop the skills, as we said before, is experiential. You have to practice. So unless you're an organization like SRI that's devoted to your employees and devoted to giving them these skills, you might not stick with it the way you should. It took us several years after we got this to work at SRI. It wasn't obvious to people that this kind of thinking would actually work. It's not at all obvious, right? You actually have to demonstrate it and show people that if you work in this kind of collaborative way with these skills, I want to emphasize, these skills that I'm talking about, I think are the rarest, most important skills that an employee can have today. It's horrifying to me that so many people graduate from great universities and don't have a clue how to create value for themselves or for others. That is the survival skill, and it's the skill that makes you have the opportunities to create meaningful work.
Sounds like they should start teaching it in colleges and universities.
Well, that's what I'm doing.
Right.
Well, you know, there's so many people out there that could create value that aren't creating value. Now we need to kind of educate people like Kurt is doing to find ways for these other people to create value. I mean, there's a huge amount of people there just wanting. I mean, the greatest human need is to be needed and wanted and valued, right? And how many services do we have today that help us fulfill that need? Almost none.
We're almost out of time. Let me just ask one question. Do you think that if this method can prove itself, it inevitably will catch on, or you think there's always going to be backsliding and people will never quite maximize the potential? You got 20 seconds.
It will catch on because the reason it hasn't happened yet is because until now you can't have negative unemployment, because then you get something people called wage inflation and you start putting people on jobs that they can't do. But now, when we can automate almost every job, we'll have a balance between automating jobs and innovating new ones. So the jobs people don't want to have are going to get automated, and better jobs are going to be innovative for people. And that's the balance we need to have. We need to match the automation with job innovation.
And I think that's a good place to wrap because we're definitely out of time.
And by the way, we will do it, but it's going to take a long time because giving people these skills is not so easy.
Right.
Okay, we'll close on that note. I've been speaking with Kurt Carlson and David Nordfors. Visit our website, www.futuretalk.net. For Future Talk, I'm Marty Wasserman, and we'll see you next time.